it's McConaughey back in the shirtless era, as you noticed from the trailer. It was back when you can count on a shirtless McConaughey in
I'm
a
sorry,
film.
is that era over?
It kind of is.
Is it really?
Yeah. First of all, there are basically only two characters in the entire film, and you have a hard time liking either one of them.
Yeah,
and
especially
I love
him,
that, actually.
Him from the very beginning, because he's eating his french fries with a fork.
And welcome back to Gateway Film Center in Columbus, Ohio. This is Fright Club, and she is Hope Madden.
She's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com. First of all, thanks for coming out of the nasty weather we got tonight. But it's a good place to be, because we're going to talk about some nasty angels.
They're not all nasty.
Right, that's true.
They are mainly nasty, though.
And we'll get into that and show a really great film. I think I've already been talking to a couple of people that have seen it already, which is cool, but a lot of people have not seen it. I think they're going to be impressed. And, of course, as always, after it's done, if you want to come down and give us your thoughts, your reactions to the film, we would love to make you part of the podcast after it's over. So it's always fun to get people's reaction. Hey, I thought you were limping for a minute. You all right there?
Sneaking.
Just sneaking in.
Sneaking.
Welcome. Yeah, this is a good one. And Angels, did we come up with this, or you come up with this basically tailored toward the movie that we were able to show tonight?
Yes. I have, I don't know, let's say a list of 200 topics in my house, and they all have movies associated with them. And then I've got highlighted the ones where I know I want to show one of the movies, and I've always known I wanted to show this movie. So there are times where I think to myself, let's just do Angels, and then I'll have to go, wait a minute, do I want to? So anyway, so that's why we've been sitting on this topic for a while. Because I knew that I wanted us to show this movie.
Yeah, because as I've said before, there was a time when we actually thought we might run out of topics for this podcast, and it's not going to happen.
It's not ever going to happen.
I mean, I'll be walking through the house and crack my foot on a door, and then, doors in horror, or something like that. That's just how it starts, and then there's
feet.
lists
I
everywhere.
could totally do one on feet.
See, there we go.
Yeah.
It's happening. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we had a lot of fun last time as we had our senior Aussie correspondent Corey Metcalf on to talk about horrific workouts, and he brought up a couple of movies, just god awful movies that we had not seen. So I guess kudos to Corey for that.
Yeah, and actually Seth was very excited about one of them because he talked about Death Spa, also called Killer Workout. So it wasn't officially part of the top 5, but it was on Corey's top 5. So we got a chance to
You had seen that already, Seth? Oh,
so
okay.
That's what people are excited about.
Yeah.
We had not. I had heard of it, but we'd not seen it. And we watched the trailer and still haven't seen it.
That was enough. But they were fun, especially getting into some of those Final Destination, very involved.
Well, and that was the
Rube
one.
Goldberg sorts of death.
Tom had a premonition as soon as he saw the topic that poor Candace was going to make the list, and indeed, Candace was number 1.
Oh,
that
she
is
did.
Just, oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Poor
and then
Candace
I want
is
to
right.
call out that Ben had a strip nude for your killer did not make the list, and it should have at least been discussed. He's right. We should have at least covered it. So that was my bad, I suppose. I might be the only one of the three of us who knew that movie.
Yeah, I didn't. I missed that one somehow. So, Ben, good job out of you. So, yeah, that was fun. Always good to get Corey on. And
Corey of the Rewatch podcast.
Yes.
If you want to check out his podcast, I think they're doing Dawson's Creek right now. They do really random things, I think, but they're fun. They're fun to listen to. He goes back and rewatches old stuff. And sometimes it's movie series. Like last time we had him on, it was like all of the Hitchcock scene, which is a lot of movies. And then Dawson's Creek, which is all right.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm interested in one of those. But we love you, Corey. Thank you for that as we look ahead to Angels in Horror. So we've got a top 5 list, and, of course, one of them is the movie we're going to show tonight, as always. But you wanted to mention a couple here before we get into it that are worth a look.
Yeah, so there are so many movies where angels figure very prominently in the film that's really what we focus on mainly. There are movies where it's a massive part of the film, but there's I always love Danny Aiello in Jacob's Ladder, who plays a masseuse, which has come up already today. And he also plays an angel, and it's such a lovely, moment in sort of such a dark and foreboding and creepy movie. He's such this just gentle, lovely, bright spot. So I just wanted to call that out because Jacob's Ladder is always worth a mention. And then,
exactly.
Technically speaking, Lucifer, right? He's an angel. He's not going to figure prominently in this list, but I don't want to say he deserves a mention I feel like I'm going to be struck down. But come on, let's be honest. So Angel Heart, also because Harold Angel's not an angel, but it's his name. So that would be the one. If I were going to work one in that was just about that, it would have been that one. And then the Mothman Prophecies, which is actually about angels. They're angels. The Mothman, he's an angel. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. We're not going to cover that, but I just always remember when I was watching it going, wait a minute, what? So I thought, wow, as long as I've recalled that, I'm going to share it with everyone.
Okay, good. So obviously I think the rules are pretty evident on this one.
Yeah.
You got to be an angel.
Yeah.
And there's some that are, like you said, more ingrained in the story than others with this.
Yeah, there's some where the angels are massive characters, and there are others where the angel is just an important figure, but not really a character we get to know.
Okay, good enough. So we will start at number 5 on our list of angels in horror. From 1990, a police lieutenant uncovers more than he bargained for as his investigation of a series of murders, which have all the hallmarks of a deceased Gemini serial killer, leads him to question the patience of a psychiatric ward. It's The Exorcist 3.
You believe in possession, Father?
Come to take a little blood from you, Father.
Who are you? I am the one.
He is inside with us. He will never get away.
This time you're going to lose.
I have no idea why that was so loud. I have no idea. And immediately I broke the rule, right? Because that's the only angels in the entire film. It's like 2 hour and 40-minute movie.
But
the
it's
only
Fabio.
angels. But it's such a great scene.
What are you supposed to do?
Casting.
Yeah.
That casting. I mean, Patrick Ewing is the Angel of Death. How beautiful and brilliant was that? That was genius. And I also love that that George C. Scott is like, so... I'm like, why are you so happy about this?
So sorry you were murdered.
I know, he's just so peppy about the whole thing. I'm like, this is seriously creepy shit, but he's all happy. I just think it's the weirdest scene.
And it's interesting to me how much this movie has become loved, much more so than I think that when it came out.
It was a bomb when it came out, which is crazy.
And critically panned,
Yeah,
really. I
yeah.
mean, I'm constantly seeing lists pop up about loved movies here, loved movies there. And this one is always getting on lists of, well, of course, because of jump scares. You know, we had it number 1 on our jump scare.
The greatest jump scare ever.
But just
is in that
overall,
movie.
it has, over the years, it has gotten some much deserved love, and really is a bit surprising when you look into it, because there was just so much battling back and forth between William Peter Blatty, who wrote and directed it, and the studio, wanting so many changes. Originally, he had it just based on his book Legion, which didn't include an exorcism at all. And they wanted that added. Of course, they wanted Jason Miller from Father Karras from the original Exorcist added in, and so many of these changes, and it still turned out as effective as it did.
Yeah,
which is sort of a miracle.
Yeah, we've talked about, as much as I love this scene, my favorite scene, and there's the great jump scare, but my favorite scene in the movie actually takes place in a confessional. It scared the living shit out of me the first time I saw this movie. Like, just terrified me. This creepy voice of this old lady in a confessional, and I love this movie.
Yeah, I think it really, really works out. And for years, Blatty had thought and had really put out there that the footage that he needed to make his sort of final cut had been lost, but it was found, and the original version was restored shortly before his death in 2017. They thought Morgan Creek, I think, was a studio that had said that it was lost. But so you get a little bit of both about his vision and the one the studio wanted for obvious reasons. They wanted to cash in on the Exorcist name, and especially after, the Heretic Exorcist 2 was so
god awful,
unfortunate.
Oh my God, it was so
bad.
But
the funny thing is, it's sort of in the one scene where they show the stairs that Father Karras fell down, they sort of go out of their way not to put the house, the McNeil's house, in the shot, and so they don't contradict it, but yet they don't show the place where the house used to be because it was destroyed in the Heretic. So they kind of play
dance
it down the middle.
that?
Yeah, they kind of dance around it, but I think it's better. I love just thinking that this goes right from the original Exorcist to this one.
The great thing about this scene, I think, is that it brings the supernatural into Kinnaman's. He starts to understand that this isn't in any way just a regular investigation, or he's not just stopping by, that there's something supernatural afoot, again, because of this dream. And I think that it works really well in the context of the film to just the whole movie pivots after this scene, and
Yeah.
I think it's just, and plus I just think it's a great scene.
Yeah, it is. And that's number 5 on our list of Angels in Horror, The Exorcist 3 from 1990. Up to number 4, a lot more recent. This is from 2015. Jack, a social outcast, is thrust out of his comfort zone when the outside world bangs on his door and he can't contain his violent past. It's He Never Died.
I was shocked to find out you had a kid.
They have Andrea.
How old are you?
I have no idea, but I'm in the Bible if that means anything. I'm known as Cain.
Probably just gonna go kill another room full of people. You are?
Probably.
Come on!
I'm getting you out of here. I'm going to kill you. I am going to tear you apart and eat you. It's not because I want to, but I have to.
Let me die!
So we were lucky enough to interview Henry Rollins when he was doing press for this movie, one of Hope's all-time favorite interview moments. But he was great. He was great. She was incredibly nervous, and he was, what can I do? What can I do to make it all right?
That is what he said. That is what he said. Because he called like 10 minutes early, and I freaked the fuck out. I was just like, I'm not where I thought I would be sitting. I was so freaked out, and I kept apologizing, and then I said, I'm sorry, I'm just so nervous. And that's what he said. What could I do to make you not so nervous? I said, you would have to literally not be you. He was great, and that's not the only reason it's on this list, because I really love Henry Rollins. But it's a fascinating movie.
Yeah, and if you look at the front there, the poster image, he's got the wings on angel wings that he doesn't actually have in the movie.
Well, so he's got big scars down his back from where he removes them so that he can blend in. But here's the thing, not that if you've ever listened to this podcast ever before, not that I'm like a stickler for like religious details or anything like that.
No.
But he's not an angel. He's Cain. He says so. Cain isn't an angel. He's a dude. Anyway, so but if you can get past that, I mean, and if I can get past that, you can get past that. It's a great movie. It's really fascinating, and it's really against type for Rollins because he plays this incredibly sort of dead inside, no energy. It's a very funny performance, and it sneaks up on you, the violence and gore in the movie, and then when it does sort of turn supernatural, it's much fun. It's almost like noir-ish with these kind of surreal flourishes. I thought this was a really fun movie.
And he still has his energetic moments that you saw a little bit of in the trailer there. But you're right, for him, as his persona, it's sort of reserved. Although that time that we saw him in his spoken word tour, he was a lot more reserved than I expected him to be. But he's great in this movie, and even though you're right, he's not an angel, it's very steeped in biblical stories.
Yeah, well, he's allegedly an angel in this movie. There are wings.
Yeah.
It's just that,
Cain.
Yeah, he's Cain.
He's a dude.
He's a dude.
That's what I heard. And this is from 2015.
Yeah.
He Never Died, number 4. We got to get moving here because we got a movie to watch. Let's move it up to number 3, and this one is from 1995. At the scene of a bizarre murder, L.A. homicide detective Thomas Daggett discovers a lethal heavenly prophecy now being fulfilled on Earth. In the fight to stop the forces of evil, he finds an unlikely ally in an elementary school teacher, the prophecy.
Are you a part of it?
No, Catherine. Other angels have made this war because they hate you. You and all humans. God has put you in his grace and pushed them aside. They're desperate. They've never been able to conquer the other loyal angels, and so this war has remained in stalemate for thousands of years. And while this state of affairs endures, no soul can meet its God. Your parents and their parents and so on from the beginning lie still in wormy earth. Of course, some of them do come to me eventually. For while heaven may be closed, I am always open, even on Christmas.
Now, of course, this one already made one of our, I guess you'd call it an angel list, as we did our favorite Satans.
We did.
In horror. This made the list.
It did. Because Viggo Mortensen, and this is another one, man, this cast.
Oh, yeah.
So, Christopher Walken, obviously, Viggo Mortensen, Virginia Madsen, Eric Stoltz, Elias Koteas. I mean, it's crazy because it's a low-budget movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tremendous amount of talent for this movie, and it's an incredibly weird film. It really starts off as one almost Tarantino kind of city dweller movie, and then it becomes this other whole out on an Indian reservation, supernatural weird thing. And Elias Koteas is terrible in it. He's terrible. And a lot of the performances are terrible, just terrible. But it's absolutely salvaged by the great performances and just by the presence of Christopher Walken, who plays Gabriel. But let's sidetrack for a second to Viggo Mortensen. Oh, my God. And he's got this like weird gimpy friend with him who's like all done up in black electrical tape. And he's so, you're like, why am I so compelled to look at you? Oh, that's right, because you're Viggo Mortensen. I totally forgot. He makes one of the weirdest on-screen Satans ever, Lucifer, because it's all very angel names in this one. And it's just, by the time he shows up, it's like a whole other movie just appeared in this movie. It's a tremendous amount of fun. And, of course, every single second that Walken is on screen, as is always the case, glorious.
And there's a lot of symbolism here. They use birds a lot to symbolize the angels. Gabriel perches on a bench, looks like a bird in silhouette. You've got Lucifer exploding into crows, Gabriel exploding into doves. That happens throughout the movie. But you had, moving away from this movie, you had others sort of under the same tent that dealt with Gabriel specifically.
Right, because it's a funny thing to me how often Gabriel shows up as a bad guy in horror movies, and I don't know why that is. Like, that just seems such an unusual thing. It's never Michael. It's rarely Michael, but Gabriel shows up all the time. There's an Australian movie from a few years ago called Gabriel, and he's actually not a bad guy in that one. And it's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. It's very stylized and, somewhat interesting. I don't mind that one. And then, of course, Constantine. That's the best Gabriel ever because it's Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
And then also Peter Stormare, right, as Lucifer in that one. That's a 1-2 punch,
that
man.
really is.
It's very hard to root for Keanu Reeves in that movie. When you see those two, you're like, I'm siding this way. I'm very sorry. And then Legion, which is Michael versus Gabriel. And we've talked about that one before because we talked about diners. We did diners in horror, so we did that one
because they have that great scene in the diner.
Yeah, they do with
fantastic.
Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are. I was just thought kind of fascinating how often Gabriel is the one who comes up.
Yeah, and this one, if you're a religious stickler like Hope is, you might have noticed that in this movie they find a handwritten Holy Bible that includes chapter 23 of the Book of Revelation, which actually only has 22 chapters. They made
That's an important point.
It is an important point, huh?
It's an important point.
That they made that up for the movie. So that is number 3, and that's a good one. Yeah, you're right, boy. The cast in this is just crazy.
It is crazy. And the way you can see in the trailer, the way they shoot the angels of Eric Stoltz early on, I mean, he's so, he fills up, he's so beautiful. It's just a really fascinating train wreck of a film.
Number 3 from 95, The Prophecy. Moving up to number 2, this is from 2001, another one we've talked about on a couple of different podcasts. A mysterious man arrives at the offices of an FBI agent, recounts his childhood, how his religious fanatic father received visions telling him to destroy people who were in fact demons. It's frailty.
They were raised to obey their father,
Go do some homework.
to love him, to trust him,
Night, boys. Sleep tight.
Don't let those bed bugs bite.
until
Wake up. I've got something to tell you.
What's wrong?
There are demons among us. I can see the demons, while other people can't.
I'm scared, Dad.
God will be sending a list of the first 7 demons,
These are people's names.
and they'll look like people, but they're not.
You're crazy!
Only demons should fear me. You're not a demon, are you?
Boy, this is a good movie, and watching that trailer, it reminds you not only what a good actor Bill Paxton was, but he directed this too.
He did direct
and the
it.
fact that he died so young, he could have directed more films, and it's so well directed and so well acted. It's got that great twist ending.
It does.
And it has a lot to say about religious fanaticism and the road to accepting that and falling into that trap. And plus it's an engaging mystery.
It is. And Bill Paxton plays against type. He plays this incredibly earnest dad, and the timestamp of this movie is so spot on. It's like 1979. They all have their Dukes of Hazzard lunchboxes. I mean, everything about it. And the children's performances are also great. Mm-hmm. There's a great, thread of this about, just being an adolescent boy and raging against your father. And everything about it, we showed this. This was one of our films back in the day. I've always been so impressed by the direction that this took, and also the writing, because the writing, you think you know where it's going and you don't know where it's going. And also, it's McConaughey back in the shirtless era, as you noticed from the trailer. It was back when you can count on a shirtless McConaughey in
I'm
a
sorry,
film.
is that era over?
It kind of is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's interesting that Bill Paxton, he directed this, and then, of course, he legendarily directed the Fish Heads video.
That's right.
Back in the day. But
if you didn't know, that's the legend.
He just didn't direct that much.
No, he had that TV show about Mormons, and I think he directed several episodes of that.
Yes. Yeah, it's a darn shame that he passed as early as he did, because this is just so well constructed. The pieces of it, the performance that he gets, not only from himself, but the kids and everyone. Powers Booth.
Oh, yeah. Powers Booth kind of sleepwalks through this, but I don't think I ever saw him really act ever, so that seems right.
But he's got a great voice.
But the thing about the angel in this film is that, he's quite sure that an angel showed up in his bedroom and spoke to him, but in the scene itself, light hits a trophy. It just hits the angel on a trophy on his book stand. And it's a perfect moment in this film, because the entire rest of the film, you and the boys, the older boy, is like, I think my dad's just nuts.
Yeah.
And, and then he
tries right
so hard to tell him, I don't think that's what you saw. And it's just, it's such an incredibly good family drama, underneath all the carnage, which really just adds to it.
Yeah, it's a sad family drama, heartbreaking.
It is.
Often, yeah, and that we got to get moving because we got a movie to show. That's from 2001, Frailty #2, and at number 1 is the movie that we're going to see tonight. Number 1 in Angels in Horror from 2016. A determined young woman and a damaged occultist risk their lives and souls to perform a dangerous ritual that will grant them what they want. It's a dark song.
I have to hear his voice again.
This is your last chance to back out.
Seal it.
You do know what we're taking on.
A shifting consciousness, becoming one with the ceremony, pure.
And may all my transgressions be washed like transgression.
This is real stuff we're playing with. Real angels, real demons.
Make me chaste and pure. How do we know that it started?
It's not your son.
I know.
No, don't cross the line. We'll be stuck here forever.
Maybe we should stop.
We can't stop.
We never talk too much about the movie that we're going to see because we like to talk afterwards with you, but how many people have seen this one?
Ooh, just a couple.
Yay.
Very nice.
We always love that.
Yeah. Well, as I heard, I think it was you talking earlier, the ritual that they show in the movie is an actual ritual. The Abramelin operation. Did I say that right? Yeah, and it is meant to obtain the knowledge and the conversation of the ritualist's guardian angel. So just, I guess, keep that in mind as we watch the movie. But yeah, we don't want to spoil anything, but please come on down. We'd love to get your reactions after the movie is over. As soon as the credits start, we'll bring the sound down and love to get your thoughts on the movie.
1 hour and 40 minutes later.
What do we think? Thumbs up? Yeah, that was one where we were kind of talking amongst ourselves that you can see by the end it could have qualified a few different themes if we were going to do a different sort of podcast, but at least one would be too much of a spoiler.
Right. Yeah, there was a whole other topic that I was thinking of doing, and I thought, well, I don't know how many people have seen this film, not just here, but who might listen, and I thought, well, I didn't want to give away what turns out to be the real theme of the whole film.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I did love, obviously, it's not a very big budget film, and the whole budget is on that last scene, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's where the whole budget comes in.
But still, they're able to do a lot of creepy things with sound.
Yeah.
Very much so, throughout the house. But yeah, they really, and you knew it was leading to something. It had to be leading to something. The whole metaphor of her personal journey still had to lead to a payoff.
One of the things I like about this movie and have first of all, Steve Oram. I'm a big fan of Steve Oram's, and this is not his typical role. He's usually a dumbass goofball, and so that's not what he was in this. And one of the things I liked right away when I watched this is that they're both so unlikable the whole film long, Right. And that never happens. And we see, on average, honestly, we kept track. We see on average 350 movies a year. So anytime a movie does something that's wildly different, I'm all excited about it. And that's something that you really rarely see, is that, first of all, there are basically only 2 characters in the entire film, and you have a hard time liking either one of them.
Yeah,
and
especially
I love that, actually.
Him from the very beginning, because he's eating his french fries with a fork. So right away, I'm out.
What is his deal?
Anybody have thoughts? Want to come down? We'd love to get you on the mic.
It's definitely a movie I would like to rewatch again just to see all the stuff that I missed out on. But I really like the acting. I really like the suspense and the buildup of what was going to happen in the end. It was really amazing.
I'm so glad you liked it. One of the things I liked about it was that toy, because, it was probably some Happy Meal toy. It's some dumbass, stupid, cheap thing, and it was his favorite toy. I thought that was very authentic.
One thing I find very interesting about it is you mentioned the fact that it's just two people for the most in the movie, and it's almost entirely indoors. So it's really quite genre bending because, you know, the initial premise is overall a horror movie, but the approach of two people in an isolated location sort of has elements of Italian neorealist films, and so it's very experimental and interesting how it, you know, seamlessly combines those two kinds of genres and sort of perfectly uses that to mix the, you know, the supernatural element with the human interpersonal element.
It really does. I mean, it's a horror film, and it becomes a horror film eventually, but for the longest time, you know, it's spooky, but you're not even sure that what they think is happening is happening. And one of the things I think is really effective is how well they play on that. Like, she has subjected herself to something right away, because right away it's actually just sort of, it seemed like a clear metaphor for just an abusive man, you know, and she's put herself in a situation where she is going to have to submit to this. And I think that, and I think, again, with the overarching theme, that's very important, but it makes the whole film so unsettling.
It also felt very gothic at times. It reminded me of things like The Others.
Yeah.
You know, where you're in that just big mansion, and you're right. Is it really happening? What's on the other side? Or someone or something in another world is watching them, interacting with them, and what side are you on? It reminded me of that at times. And well done, like you said, on a limited budget, is able to get the foreboding, a sense of growing dread and creepiness throughout the whole. And part of that is, even though it's a very big house, it still feels very claustrophobic.
It does.
They have to submit. She has to submit to these long, drawn-out rituals and the processes of not eating and just sitting in one room, going from one to the other.
And then shaving his back.
Yeah, what was that about?
That would be unpleasant. I don't want to do that.
I think he just threw that in for grooming purposes. It's not really part of it.
He can't reach. She's the only one there. There's a lot about purification. There's that mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
And that was another part, I think, early on where she knows what's going to happen and she does it anyway.
Yeah.
And, he was a dick.
Oh, totally. Well, thanks, you guys. I appreciate the comments, as always. All right, looking ahead to next time out. Well, we don't know quite yet what movie we're going to show
for September.
In September, but we do know about October.
We do, because, and we don't even know if we're supposed to tell you this, but they're going to show Halloween the entire month long here, and they have asked us to show Halloween 3 for Fright Club. So it's a 35-millimeter print of Halloween 3, and that is what we're going to do. And we're still deciding, maybe you can help us, if our topic is going to be Tom Atkins or the movies of 1982. And if you haven't looked them up, there are some really fucking great movies from 1982. So those are right now the two options.
So we'll put up a poll maybe on the Fright Club podcast. By the way, I haven't even mentioned it.
You haven't even
mentioned it. If you haven't joined our Fright Club podcast group on Facebook, please do that. Just send.
That's where you'll find your poll.
Yeah, just send a request and we'll approve that really quickly. Of course, you can always find us. This podcast will be edited up on Monday. Mm-hmm. Usually, you can find it on all the usual apps, and of course on our socials. The main website is madwolf.com, and on Facebook and Instagram it's Madwolf Columbus, and our own Twitter is @FrightClubPod. So you can keep the conversation going on any of those platforms, and we would love it if you do. But yeah, October, it's going to be Season of the Witch, Halloween 3, and we'll decide on the topic. So that should be fun. I mean, October is always fun at the Gateway Film Center.
Yes, it is.
And we're gonna have a blast doing that. So,
and also another quick plug, if you haven't, the Hammer program that they're going to run the entirety of August, which was co-programmed by Brandon Thomas and myself. It's still running, and you should go. This Friday, they're going to show modern Hammer, so it's going to be The Lodge and Let Me In.
Oh, so good.
And then after that, back to the regular Hammer. The bodices and the bloodletting. So, go. Find something and go.
Yeah, you still have time to stop. Hammer time. All right, we're going to show a dark song here in just a little bit. Please enjoy it. Please let us know what you thought. Until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Enjoy.